All right, guys, welcome to episode 13 of It's Personal and Entrepreneurs podcast. We got Damien with us today. Super stoked for you to be here. We
Glad
appreciate you coming on.
Thanks for the invite.
We really like to start all our shows with being true to our name, which is It's Personal and Entrepreneurs podcast, and getting a little bit of just your personal story of from where you were to how you are now, the parts of it that you want to tell, of course.
Sure. Well, born and raised in New Orleans, Louisiana. Growing up in that city, it's interesting. Let's just say that much. It's a city I personally would not raise children in. I grew up in very humble beginnings. I grew up in I would say a predominantly black area, mixed with a lot of poor white folks. Back then, we didn't look at color. We just looked at it. We were all poor.
Yeah.
That's one thing we had in common. We were poor.
Yeah.
Unlike today's day and age where everything is labels. But, man, it was one of the best things that probably I ever could have experienced because my mom and I grew up in it was maybe a 700 square foot, half of a double. Mm-hmm. So it was like a shotgun house split in two.
Yeah.
And, growing up there, I knew that early on in life that I wanted more than what we had. And I grew up in a family that was very, very religious people, and people that had some disempowering belief systems, people that maybe had some self-imposed limitations that they passed down through generations.
Sure. Yeah.
They passed their limitations down to you,
To the
right?
next, yeah.
Yeah. And I early on, because of being good in sports and my parents taking me out of public school and putting me in the Catholic school, I was around other kids that had families that had money.
Yeah.
So I knew right away what was possible, where my mom would say, that's, we can't get those Jordans when I played basketball because that's for those rich kids.
Yeah.
Or, I remember coming here for the first time, actually, and my mom saying, I was like, Mom, I'm going to live there one day. She's like, well, that's for those rich folks. That was kind of like always the thing that was like, we can't have that. That's for them.
Yeah.
And I just never bought into that, man. And I understand. Listen, Mom's completely different than where she is today. She had me at 17.
Different mindset.
What do you know at 17 years old? I'll go back to where I was when I was 17. I had a child. God. Oh, man.
Yeah.
I was a wreck at 17 years old. But anyway, really good people growing up in, so mom's side of the family, super poor, dad's side of the family, more of a middle-class family. Parents were divorced at like 2. I think they divorced when I was 2. And I had really, really amazing grandparents. Although my mom and dad were working, they were divorced. One thing about my dad, although he wasn't very present early on in my life, he never missed a child support or anything like that. So he definitely supported the family that way. But, I remember growing up missing that family element.
Sure.
I would look at other people in their families and going on vacations, and we just never did anything like that.
Yeah. Yeah.
So early on, I think I really realized what I wanted. And now that I'm, 44, looking back, and I could just remember as a child, I was always a dreamer. I was always a kid who thought big. And, I think that was a blessing from my upbringing and experiencing on one side of the family, real poor conditions and scarcity. Yeah. Scarcity mindsets too. And, moving on through my high school years, I was a lost kid, man. I was a kid who didn't really have a dad that was very present. He didn't really teach me much about being a man. Yeah. My dad was kind of more of a ladies' man. So the only thing he really taught me was, how to
do that.
Yeah. And look, my dad and I have a great relationship today, although, completely different political views. He's present today, and he is a good dad. But early on, I didn't have that solid male figure. So going through the different schools that I went through and all that, I found myself doing a lot of people pleasing, a lot of wanting approval from other people, and I kind of adapted to my environment. When I was, in my neighborhood, I was a little thug. When I went to high school, where it was a Catholic high school. A lot of the kids there like country music. I like country music.
Yeah. You
So it was
became a
just like,
chameleon.
yeah, I was a chameleon, and I was really good at it.
Yeah.
You know, so I never really knew who I was. All through high school, I never had an identity.
Yeah.
That I was always just I was just kind of lost.
Yep.
And then a real unfortunate thing happened. My best friend was murdered right after we graduated high school, right in front of us, and that sent our entire friend group in a really downward spiral. Landed me in a drug rehab at 18. I didn't really have a drug problem back then, but I had, luckily my grandfather was a judge on my dad's side of the family. And because of what had happened, he said that if you go to a drug treatment facility, they're not going to take you out and put you in jail. So we did that. I complied and conformed all my way through the drug treatment facility at 18. And it was tough because my best friend was just murdered. I had gotten in some trouble. I had lost my zeal for life at that point. At that point, when you witness something like that, when you or experience that level of trauma, and it's like your best friend, and he was actually the strongest of all of our friends.
Yeah.
Our school was kind of known as the fighting school. You know, in the city of New Orleans, if anybody knows about Holy Cross High School or St. Bernard Parish, we're known as those white kids that can fight. You know, so how my best friend was murdered started with a fight, and we were very, we were known for fighting. So it was unfortunate that the things happened the way that they happened, but I look back at everything in life as a learning experience and a blessing, but that right there set me on a downward spiral.
Yeah.
Like immediately. And a lot of drug use from that point forward. I walked onto a football team in college and could have easily got a scholarship, but was never dealt with that underlying issue and that trauma of that. And because of that, rather than excelling in football like I could have, I decided to choose the other route, which was partying, and, got into some things that I probably shouldn't have got involved with, and just lived a party life. As a matter of fact, Panama City, from the time I was 19, 20 to the time I was 35, I spent 3 months of my life here every year, throwing every major party the city's ever seen for spring break.
Selling spring break.
Yeah. My best friend at the time, Anthony Loicano, and he still to this day does this, but they have Sunquest Promotions. The MTV Beach Bash was our concert, sponsored by MTV. Anthony's concert. We did all the ping parties, the foam parties, the any kind of party you can think of, the Panamaniac cards. So I spent
Hammerhead Freds.
Hammerhead Freds, Sharkies, all that
Spinnaker,
that was all of my buddy and me. So long story short, I was on a crash course, man.
Yeah.
I didn't want to live. I really didn't think that I valued life at all at that point in time. And it all started with that situation that I experienced when I was 18. And, that led to a lot of drug use and a lot of alcohol use to the time I was 35, actually. And then one day I just woke up after getting a DWI and I was I'm done. I can't do this anymore.
Yeah.
You hit that point when you lived that lifestyle.
I mean, if I told people the actual story of what the parties that I went to and the people that I hung out with, and I worked on movies for 5 years also. After the 2008 crash, my stepdad was in the movie industry he just retired actually in February. Most people wouldn't believe the story. I've lived a party life like no one else. And there's some good experiences from it. There's also, there was definitely some consequences that came from that lifestyle. At 35, as broken as anybody could possibly be in a hotel room, about to end my life. Mm-hmm. So things didn't really turn around, and I didn't grow up really until I was 35.
Yeah.
And I remember there was a hotel room. This is after my fourth DWI, the first. And all throughout this, there are situations where God was with me. I mean, there was a situation where I was actually shot at 9 times and none of the bullets hit me from like 6 feet away. There was also the situation with the DWIs where none of the other judges knew about any of the other DWIs, so they never ever charged me with anything more than a first on all 4.
A first offense, yeah.
On all 4 of them.
Really?
Wow.
So technically speaking, I should have went to prison for at least 10 years.
For 2 or 3, like 3 or 4, yeah.
Because of the DWIs. As a matter of fact, the day of my sentencing for the 4th one, which is where I actually woke up, the judge, now I was in rehab when my attorney called me up. He was like, do you know an angel that you haven't introduced me to? Or, I'm like, why is that? He said, they're going to plead you out on a first. He said, so I need you to sign this power of attorney right now so I can plead you out, because you're not going to get anything, because I didn't even have a chance to negotiate on your behalf. They're just giving you a first.
Take it.
Yeah, plea. So I did that, and fast forward 10 months later, I'm in my first real job in sobriety. At this time, I was a general manager of an LA Fitness in Baton Rouge, Louisiana.
Okay, yep.
I actually took that gym from being, I think we were ranked 711 out of 800 and something gyms. I do remember 711 is the exact number. We were 711 out of how many gyms they had, 800 and something gyms in the country, so we were one of the worst. Within 6 months, I turned it around to a top 50 gym. Within a year, it was in the top 25.
Heck yeah.
And that was my first real test
in
sobriety.
And
I was always a high producer and everything.
A hustler, yeah.
I always had that hustle mentality. A lot of that had to do with my upbringing. One of the things that
go and get it.
One of my probation officers taught me is that, he goes, people that do what you do and, some of the activities you were doing, if you just take that energy you put into that stuff and put it into something else, he said, you're one of the top performing people there is. Mm-hmm. So early on, there was a probation officer that I had that was very instrumental in helping me see things differently and helping me take that energy I put into things that weren't serving me into things that were serving me. So that was my real first test, but that was in 2015 actually. So in 2015, went from turning that gym around to the executive vice president of that company. LA Fitness happened to come to my sentencing date for that 4th DWI because they wanted to make sure that I wasn't going to go to jail. I was too valuable to the company at this point. And I probably had 15 or so people show up for that sentencing date. Well, what do you know? They run a pretrial sentencing report that day, and they find out about the other 3 DWIs. Now, at this time, they can't charge me with a 4th.
Right.
I've already pled out on a 1st.
On the, yeah.
And the judge says, everybody who's with Mr. Callais in my chambers right now. He said, because he's going to get jail. I can't give him what he should get, but he's going to get some jail time. At the time, I think I was on house arrest for like 3 months. I think the max he could give me was like 180 days or whatever it was. And at the time, I think the remaining time was 21 days was the max he can give me in jail. So he called everybody back in the office, and he's like, he's not walking, so y'all tell me. And I wasn't in the room at this time.
Yeah.
So y'all, including my parents, the executive VP of sales for this company, and everybody had to tell the judge how much time he should give me. And I wasn't in that room, so I don't know who said what. But I remember him calling me into that office. He said, son, he goes, are you a believer? At this time, I think, I always knew one thing I can tell you in all the stuff that I've been through and everything that I have experienced in life, I always remember there was something inside of me that knew that the answer was going to be Jesus Christ. Always knew that.
Yeah, it's like that quiet calling in the back of your head no matter what you're doing.
I always knew. And he was always with me. I just didn't grab the hand. I didn't, it wasn't, I guess it just wasn't the right time at the time. So I ended up spending the 21 days in jail, and prior to this, there was a moment, I probably should have went there first. This is what I call my gift of desperation. This is actually prior to me even going through treatment, going to the courtroom and all this stuff. There was a moment where I almost ended my life, actually. And this is where everything changed for me. I was in room 343 at the Ramada Hotel on Causeway South in New Orleans, Louisiana, and I went to that hotel room to end my life. And I remember being in that room, and I had one night in the hotel room. My pastor at the time had paid for me to get one night in the hotel room, and I needed a Social Security guard to get into rehab. I didn't have it. I didn't have a license. I didn't have a wallet. I didn't have a car. I didn't have a cell phone.
Yeah.
That's how bad things were. That's how bad things had gotten for me. I had burned all the bridges you could possibly burn, and there was nobody willing to help me other than a few friends that I had who still to this day rock with me on everything that I do. And I'm very fortunate that those people were there for me back then. But I remember when I was in this hotel room and I was contemplating this, it was like the devil was on this shoulder, the angel was on this shoulder, like, do it, do it, do it. The other side's like, no, you're not going to do that. And I just remember getting on the phone with my buddy Paul, and Paul's like, man, when are you going to submit? Your will and your way of decision making and your thinking is flawed. When are you going to realize that? And he said, in this situation, he said, I need you to understand I'm not your fucking friend. That's exactly how he said it. He said, I love you, but I am not your friend right now. He said, if you want what I have, which he is sober like 20-something years at a time, very successful construction business in New Orleans, software developer, which most construction companies on the Gulf Coast use his software for asset management to make sure that they run, lean operations.
Yep.
It's profitable business.
Efficient. Yep.
Yeah. He said, you're going to have to submit, man. He said, and if you want my help, he goes, I'll let you borrow my way of thinking. He said, but your way of thinking ain't going to work. And he said, until you submit your will. And he was a believer too. That's why I chose him as my sponsor back then, because I knew that I wanted what he had. He said that you were going to have to submit, man. He goes, because your way doesn't work. And I was like, okay, great. Will you take me to the Social Security office so I can get a Social Security card? He said, no. He said, you got yourself in this situation. You need to get yourself out of this situation. And if you call anyone who's going to enable you to go get that Social Security card, you call mom, dad, or anybody to drive you there. He said, I'm done. I'm out. Walk there. So so at this time, I'm like, I collapse after this phone call. And I just remember I was like, well, I don't even know what to do anymore. I can't do this anymore. I don't know what to do. I don't know what to think. I don't trust my thinking. I'm just complete submission at this moment. I try to get back to that complete submission every day, but that was the one moment in my life I was just like, just go before me and show me.
Yeah.
The next person I meet, I go from that hotel room on my knees, crying, the most emotional I've ever been in my life. At this point, I decided, that I wasn't going to end it. I was just going to do what Paul told me to do. And I go walk to the front desk of the hotel room, and the lady's name was Michelle. She was the general manager of that hotel. And the first words out of her mouth when I locked eyes with her, I was in tears. She was like, honey, I don't know why I'm getting ready to tell you what I'm telling you right now. She said, but God's putting it in my spirit right now to tell you you're going to be okay. Like, didn't even tell her anything.
Yeah,
She said out of her mouth, God told me to tell you. And then come to find out, the drug treatment facility I was trying to get into, her brother had gotten sober there.
Wow.
And actually, Randy Gomez, Randy?
Mm-hmm.
Randy owned it.
Wow.
So that's how I know Randy, I met him back then.
That's crazy.
So long story short of everything is that I always knew Christ had to be the answer. And I always knew that I had to let somebody else think for me at that point.
Yeah.
My thinking and everything was flawed. So that's really where the story kind of began. And then the thing with LA Fitness happened, and then I go get a job with Vivint after that. Y'all know what Vivint is.
Yep. Very familiar.
I was actually Rookie of the Year for Vivint in 2015.
Yeah.
It's a really cool company.
Yeah.
That's the security system in this office.
Yeah.
And the whole reason why I chose that, because I was always really good in sales. I chose that particular position because I had never done door-to-door sales before. And my mentor at the time, and see, when I had went into all this, I actually had a pretty successful career in mortgage from 04 to 08. I was territory sales manager for a Fortune 500 mortgage company. And
08 was a
what was when the crash happened?
Yeah.
I also had a crash. My first crash in my life was in 08. It was my first personal crash along with the market crash.
Yeah.
The second one was when I got the 4TWI in 2015. So they didn't want me to go back into mortgages. My mentors at the time, and they said, we want you to go do something that's really hard, something that you don't want to do, because something that's not going to feed your ego. Because you go right back into mortgage, you're crushing it. I was making $170K a year at 24, 25. Not bad back then. So they wanted me to do something that was going to humble myself, and knocking doors is one of the most humbling things you'll ever do, man.
Very true.
So that year, I became the rookie of the year, sold like 180 accounts that year. I just worked with them for 1 year, but I was surrounded by a bunch of Mormon guys, actually. And although that's not my faith, they're very good family people. They have very good values. They don't cuss. They don't drink. And I needed that at that stage of my life.
Yeah, it's a perfect fit.
Yeah, I'm actually still really good friends with those guys today. So that's kind of where everything really started for me. And that's where I really proved to myself that I could do this sober, and that I can do this with the help of the Lord. And still at this time, I'm still like definitely 1 foot in, 1 foot out.
Yeah.
The turn in my life didn't really happen until a couple of years ago. And it's kind of funny, fast forward to where we're at right now. I currently have a real estate business with teams in 26 states and 2,300 realtors. 10 of those states that we're in, we have the number one real estate team in those states that are in our organization. So 10 of the 26 states. So I've been very blessed with the skill set to attract leaders to our business, which at the end of the day is everything to do with my belief. And when I believe in something, I can sell it. It's not like sales,
Yeah.
That just like everything that I built an organization. I was one of the pioneers in the cannabis industry also for CBD. That was really my biggest success prior to real estate, was I built an organization of 17,000 distributors in the first CBD company that ever shipped to all 50 states. We even before Charlotte's Web was in existence, we were shipping out CBD. So I saw a little girl who had seizures, and I have seizures too. And I saw her go from 400 seizures, 300 to 400 seizures a day, to almost like a dozen a month. And when I saw that, I was like, I need to tell the world this.
Yeah.
Just like when, I was with EXP prior to this, and I loved EXP, a great company. It was my first company in real estate. But when I saw LPT had basically a ground floor opportunity and had improved the model, I was like, I wanted to be on the ground floor of this. And after meeting with the founder and hearing his vision that he was willing to bet $100 million of his own money on himself, I was like, okay, I believe in this guy. Anybody who's willing to bet $100 million on themselves,
Sure.
And taking no investors.
Yeah.
So I think for me, the key has been doing things that I believe in, not just to sell. I can't just sell something to sell something.
Yeah, no, I agree with that.
Most people don't even realize, but everybody's in sales.
Yeah.
From the mom, the stay-at-home mom, who's trying to convince their children to go to sleep at night, to, everybody. We're all, every day we're selling.
We're all influencing something.
Yeah, exactly. So for me, it's just been, I think the key to my success has just been doing things that I believe in, man. And when it gets into me, then being able to transfer that energy to someone else and building an organization has just been kind of my skill set, team building, which is really, it's not really real estate that fires me up, although I do love real estate, I love everything about it. It's more of the personal development side, helping people develop into their best potential.
Yeah, and listen,
selves.
I can share in that to a degree, because I think there's two different personality types that get into real estate. There's people that get into real estate that love that real estate process, and they want to do it as much as possible, and they absolutely love that interaction with the client and the family, the search for the house. And I very early on, I liked it when I first got into it. I would say I even loved it. But I'm the kind of person that with anything that I do, once I kind of get something down packed, I want to move on to something a little
and
bit.
it feels good helping
Yeah.
that person get into their house or their investment
Yeah.
property. And you know, one of the things I made sure to emotionally connect to, especially in the market that we're in, think of the memories and moments that people are creating with the properties that we sold them.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right. And then we're attached to that. That's why I stopped giving closing gifts. You know what I give now? I give photography sessions.
That's nice. That's
So-
actually, yeah, that's smart.
So
That's very
I'm
smart.
just not good at choosing gifts.
Yeah.
I hate
It's the hardest part. Yeah.
because a lot of the
like you set them up with like a family setup.
yeah. So a lot of the times
That's
when I
cool.
give a gift, it's like, are they even gonna put it up or hang it or whatever I bought them or use it?
Yeah.
That's why I stopped
Yeah, and
wasting
you're
time with
guessing
that.
what someone wants.
So I made a relationship with different photographers in different areas, and now I just send families to go get. You know how everybody gets the white
1
photo-
hour. Yeah.
yeah, the white photos in the sand, and you know,
That's a great idea.
it is because again, I'm attached to their memories and moments.
Then
and
that huge picture on the
they're
wall.
never gonna forget me.
Yeah.
Because I arranged that, right? And you know, one of the things I do pride myself in my real estate business while we're on the topic is I've done everything with literally no lead generation. Now, of course, I get some leads from the company, but as far as me investing,
Prior to that, yeah.
yeah, my first year I did 12 million in sales with literally sphere of influence. The biggest issue I see with new agents, and this one's for the new agents out there, by the way, stop joining real estate brokerages. You are launching a business.
Yeah.
Okay. Launch a real estate business. Don't join a real estate company. And I think that's been the key to my success in everything that I've done. A lot of that's attributed to my experience in network marketing. I have a 15-year background in network marketing, which is the best school on the planet for entrepreneurship, if you ask me, is that they teach you how to launch a home-based business, right? And really all network marketing is word-of-mouth marketing.
Yeah.
You do it all day, every day. You know, right now you're network marketing Maylin.
Yeah.
You're network marketing EDG. That's your company, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I'm network marketing Tommy Bahama right now.
Yeah.
You don't even know, but all day long, whether you understand it or not, everything that you're doing, you're network marketing a product. And I'm not getting paid from Tommy Bahama to do this. So what I did early on was I found a model that, wait, I can go ahead and share products and share things that I believe in to other people and get money from it. And that, I think one of the best things I ever did was get involved in network marketing because it taught me about passive income, which kind of leads me to, you know, the deal with real estate is that I see so many agents out there. You know, we're very fortunate to be in rev share models. There's so many agents out there that are living transactional.
Yeah.
One of the things that I hear, and one of the myths I wanted to dispel real quick, is a lot of people say, oh, you're in that MLM company. Well, let me just put you on notice here. You're in an MLM.
Everyone is in real estate.
Everyone is. The only thing is you're one cog in your broker's MLM pyramid. Okay, so you don't have the same opportunity that your broker has.
It's like brokers and shareholders and you nothing. The only difference with ours is
People that are balking at the model that we're in, they're in a pyramid scheme model. They don't have the same opportunity that their broker has.
Well, and the other thing that we always say, whether it's
it's just so funny how many people are actually uneducated and they just regurgitate things that they were told, which
and whether it be EXP or LPT, the truth of the matter is that and we say this all the time, is you have to sell real estate for that to work.
100%.
For that to work, we have to actually provide the service for the business we're in, and you have to do it at a high level and a high volume.
Yeah.
So no one's making money off of just signing someone up. We're making money off of signing people up that sell real estate. Then do it well.
Now, one of the things that brought me into real estate was my network marketing career. I got so sick and tired of people just, you know, I built a team of 17,000 distributors and was on the advisory board of that company, made over $1 million in that company. And I got sick and tired of me seeing it for other people, and them, they just couldn't see it. Like I would see the potential in them and they would quit, you know, week, 2 weeks.
Yeah.
down the line. Yeah. They couldn't take that rejection. And I was like, it just blew my mind that I would waste time with these folks and they would just quit. So I was like, wait, I can go build a network inside of a industry with people that have licenses.
They're hungry.
Yeah.
Yeah. With people that actually have licenses that have to go to a school.
That are a little bit committed, at least on the outset. Yeah.
Just from having the license standpoint, you know,
There was a financial strategy.
So for me, it was, I got sick and tired of wasting time with people that would just quit on themselves. And that's what legitimately brought me into EXP. And then when I came into EXP, I was just like, wow, all right, yeah, I like this. And then I saw that, the new model come out, and of course went over to that. So yeah, it's just been.
I agree with what you're saying, though, going back to what you said about launching a business, though, because even me, like when I first left corporate, being a sales manager and having lots of employees and stuff, I went and joined a brokerage. And you kind of, that mindset that goes along with that is that you're like waiting for them to do something for you. And that's not how real estate works. And it took me
You're waiting a long time.
a year and a half to kick my own ass into gear and start working for myself, really, and move in that direction. But it really, you have to come at it from that angle if you're going to do well in real estate. You can't think of it as joining a brokerage. You have to launch a business.
So one of the things I was taught in network marketing is how to launch a business in 90 days. We would always do a 90-day run in every company that I was in. We'd start it off by launching whatever product or service we were in and doing a 90-day run. And basically what that looks like is I always tell people this, and this is one thing that anybody who's worked with me hears me say over and over and over again: divorce yourself from the outcome, marry the daily activity. So when you launch a business, okay, it's really not rocket science here. What I did in my first year in EXP was I talked to 50 people a day for 90 days, whether it be through text message, messenger, engaging in 50 conversations a day is what it was. Maybe I didn't talk to 50 people, but I made sure I made an outward
reach.
Yeah, I prospected 50.
I started a conversation.
Yeah, and all I did at that point in time was I formed them. And form them means I talked to them about their family, their occupation, their recreation, their motivation. And then I made sure somewhere in that conversation, when I asked them, well, how's the job going, or how's the family, or this and that, they're going to reciprocate the conversation back to me. And then
it comes up naturally.
Then, exactly. We form people naturally.
Yeah.
It's just an acronym that I use.
I think it's an old Amway acronym, to be honest with you.
It is. It goes all the way back to Dexter Yeager.
Yeah.
So, again, network marketing being the best school on the planet for entrepreneurship. Well, what I'll tell you is this. The thing that I did, though, is I didn't go into the conversation to talk about real estate ever. But one thing that I always plugged before that conversation was over with, when the conversation shifted back to me and they started asking me questions, I said, "Hey, do you mind if I ask one favor of you? You know how I support everybody in my network's businesses. The one thing I can tell you guys, and the superpower that I have, is I am the biggest supporter of everybody's business that is in my friend network. I just support. Even when they don't support me, I still support them. Yeah. Sometimes it's a little discouraging when you find out they didn't support you.
Absolutely.
But I always say, listen, if you hear anybody even mention real estate, I want you to think about my name. And I want to make my name synonymous with real estate, because with you guys being in all 50 states, you can technically do deals in all 50 states.
Yeah.
You refer it out to somebody else. We're in 26 states right now, but so I'm making sure that I plant that one little statement there, that if you hear real estate, you think of me, and you can trust me. So I'll make sure whatever referral you send me, I take care of it for you.
And tying that back into something.
Let me just finish this. 50 contacts a day for the first 90 days is 4,500 contacts.
Yeah.
It's a lot of people.
Yeah. So, and I think the first year I did 26 deals, and it was 10.2 million in sales what I did my first year. Not 12.2. I need to correct that.
Yeah. And tying that back into what you were saying earlier about not using lead gen, I've kind of been all over the place. When I first got in, I did a lot of it without that. A lot of the stuff you're saying, talking to people. Then you get to a point where you're like, maybe I should, at least I did. I got to a point where I was like, maybe I should supplement it with some of that. And what I found with real estate lead gen, I'm not poo-pooing on all of it because I think there's a time and place for everything.
Yeah.
But it creates a lot of work with a lot of people who aren't, like, they're not your like second slide customer, if you will. They're not the people who are ready to bite now. And it's a lot of follow-up and cadence and work and convincing and chasing after to maybe get like a little bit of ROI on your time, when if you just really double in real estate, I think if you just double down on what you're talking about, that outward prospecting and knowing who to talk to and when to talk to them, that's when your business really starts doing a lot better.
I did buy Realtor.com lead. I bought some Realtor.com
and I bought leads that work okay, but in the end, nothing is going to beat the network.
Nothing's going to beat your sphere of influence and a referral-based business, and nothing's going to beat content creation.
Yeah.
you know, becoming the mayor of your town,
Becoming a person of influence.
person of influence. Exactly. That's exactly what it is. You know, sharing your story. One thing that I will say that I've done from the very beginning, and this has a lot to do with my network marketing background. The first live video I ever did was the day I drove myself to drug rehab. And I told everybody live on camera that I was putting myself in rehab because I felt like a fraud. And I said, you know, I've been living this double life.
Yeah.
And I put myself on blast, man. I told everybody that when I came back, I was going to document a story, and I was going to show everybody a story of a man who I knew how much potential I had.
Mm-hmm.
And I knew I was wasting all of that potential. So after that, I spent the whole year going through everything that I went through. I came back and I started documenting it. And now for 10 years now, I've documented my story on social media. And I'm willing to bet that just about every relationship that I have today, you know, and of course, you know, a lot of these people from back home or whatever, but I have a pretty loyal following on social media, and it's all because they've watched my story, man.
For a long time now, yeah.
That's it. And it's not, you know, I'm not some guy. The one thing I will tell you that I'm proud of as myself is that when I meet people that have never met me before, they're like, oh, you're the same guy. Like, you're no different than the guy. I'm like, yeah, that's me.
Yeah.
And that's the key. You have to be authentic and vulnerable. I think that if you're going to do social media in an effective manner, you know, it can't be
different than who you
pie in the
are.
sky.
Yeah.
You know, you can't just be out there celebrating all your wins, all your victories.
And not showing any loss.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just
That was
I
kind
had
of
to take a bunch of L's, man.
that was kind of the
typical social
precipice
media.
of us doing this, to be honest, as we get sick of, you know, there's people have a filtered social media side and what actually happened to get there. And we know, because we love talking to people and networking and hearing people's story, that 80% of it is the stuff that you don't talk about.
Yeah, it's the L's.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I look back at you know, a good friend made this suggestion to me early on. You know, I was really concerned about a lot of people finding out about my past.
Mm-hmm.
And
It's like an asset if you use it
yeah,
properly.
especially when I co-founded the Cajun Navy, probably one of that was the most important event that ever happened in my life, actually. Can't believe I haven't thought about that yet. But in 2015, 6 months into my sobriety, I accidentally
Started the Cajun
sparked
Navy.
a movement called the Cajun Navy by doing a live video on Facebook. Full transparency, the Cajun Navy was a concept that was used during Hurricane Katrina. And anybody who was out rescuing people in a boat was called the Cajun Navy by the
Got it. Okay.
So there was never an organized effort for Katrina. It was just anybody that was in a boat,
Just went up.
the public called them the Cajun Navy.
Yeah.
In August 12th, 2016 was the worst flood in American history. It was in Baton Rouge, Louisiana. And I was probably about a little bit over a year sober at the time. I had heard a rumor of a bunch of people going to a Home Depot on Coursey Boulevard in Baton Rouge to go out and rescue folks. At this time, I didn't even own a boat.
Yeah.
And so we went to go over there. And again, this is my network marketing background popping in here. You know, I had been doing live videos at the time for my businesses and stuff like that. And I had met this gentleman in a parking lot who, his name's Chris Clark, and he had a kid, two children, actually, 4 and 5 years old, and he couldn't get within 8 miles of his kids because of the flood. He was crying his eyes out. He was like, can you guys please help me get to my kids? So I said, like, will you tell that story on Facebook? I guarantee you I'll find us some boats. And he's like, yeah. Well, that video within like 48 hours got 2 million views.
Jeez.
And I think to this day it's got like 20-something million views. And my phone number was on that video.
Oh, God.
So imagine, like, this is right when Hillary and Trump are going at each other. The flood was not getting any national coverage whatsoever. And this video is going viral on social media, and my phone number's on there. So we got people saying, well, we're stuck here, we're stuck there. Oh, we got boats coming in from here, we got boats coming in from there. We're bringing these supplies. My phone was lighting up. And a friend of mine, Keegan Lanier out of Lafayette, Louisiana, said, how can I help? And he was the, at the time, I think he's now the executive vice president of the company. But you ever heard of the Walk-Ons franchise? Walk-Ons?
Yes. Yeah.
So Keegan reached out to me. He's like, what can I do to help? I'm like, man, I got all this information coming in on my phone right now. All these people are
Nothing
calling
we
me.
can do with it.
And I'm in boats right now. And you know who Darren James is? Actually, this is right around the time I met Darren James. 'cause
Okay.
It was right where his office was when this flood happened. So we ended up getting my phone forwarded to Keegan some kind of way. Somebody else did it. And all the information was going to him, and he funneled it into a Facebook group that we named the Cajun Navy.
Gotcha. To kind of coordinate an effort.
Yeah. We had, admins, and within like 48 hours, there was some group in Silicon Valley that created this GPS tracking app where people were calling in with addresses. We were able to populate it on. It was
That's
a
crazy.
whole effort that was happening behind the scenes that I was not a part of because I was in boats rescuing people. That was happening on social media inside of a Facebook group. And it was just a wonderful thing that came, man. And, Cajun Navy just stands for, it's just neighbors helping neighbors. If we wait on the government for anything, man, there's so much red tape involved. But that one specific thing right there, that one story that I told, which is one theme that I want you guys to get out of this, is like, what story are you telling from your social media? Social media is a wonderful thing, and when used properly, it is, we know it's filled with a lot of drama, a lot of hate, and a lot of division also. But you have the opportunity to not be that person and not buy into all that and share a story of positivity, a story of hope, and be the light in the world. And then that's what I've tried to be for the last 9-10 years, is be somebody who's transparent, be somebody who's just being truly authentic, and somebody who's living life on fire. And that's kind of me, man.
Yeah. I love it.
And then when I was in rehab, actually, they gave me the name Mr. Carpe Diem.
Yeah, I was going to ask where that came from.
So when I was in rehab, a lot of the guys that were there were gaming the system. They were there because their parents wanted them to be.
They were there to get out.
Yeah, they were there because their PO had them there. And I did like every assignment. I did not talk to anybody in there because I just knew these people were gaming the system. I put myself in there. There was nobody put me there other than myself. So when I was in there, I had the words Carpe Diem tattooed on my wrist. And I don't even remember who said it, but somebody was like, "You're like Mr. Carpe Diem. Like, you do everything. Like, you finish all the assignments. You do this, you do that. You're involved. You're answering questions." And I was like, when I get out, I'm going to call myself Mr.
Carpe Diem. It's good branding, yeah.
Yeah, so it was I just started using the hashtag Mr. Carpe Diem initially. Then it caught fire, and everybody started calling me that.
Yeah, that's solid.
It's just, and what it represents is a man that's willing to take all out massive action in all areas of his life. Hey, I don't always get it right.
Every day.
I don't always get it right. There's some days that I take a L. I really like to live every day and be present and just try to win that day. And I do win the majority of my days, but there are some days I have an L.
Yeah.
We all do.
We all do, yeah.
Yeah, man.
100%.
Yeah. So that's what it's all about, man. It's just about a man who's willing, and you can be the same. It's a man who's willing to take all out of massive action in all areas of his life, and at the same time take inventory of himself in all areas of life. And I kind of break that down into 4 categories. It's my coach and mentor, Sean Whalen, founder of Lions Not Sheep, which I was very fortunate to speak at the Lions Den Live 2 years ago, probably the biggest speaking engagement I ever had. He taught me a principle called Core 4, and Core 4 breaks down to power, purpose, passion, and production. And each day I look to make little deposits
into
in
each
those
one.
categories. Power is your body, purpose is your spirituality and mindset. Passion is relationships, and production is, of course, is business. And each one of those categories has their own disciplines in them. And if you make deposits into those things and you get 1% better in each of those categories every day, guess what? You get a W.
Yeah.
It's not rocket science.
No.
Right?
Just like anything, longevity and consistency and effort, always, you can't not get to success in something if you do that.
Man, 1%. James Clear wrote a book called The Atomic Changes. Have y'all ever heard of that book?
I read Atomic Habits.
That's what it is.
Maybe it's Atomic Habits. Yeah.
James Clear?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. So Atomic Habits by James Clear. Wonderful book. And how do you eat an elephant? You don't eat it with one bite. You eat one bite at a time, one small bite at a time. The same thing with your personal growth and personal development. Any area of your life, you're getting better. You're not looking for radical change, just that 1%.
Yeah, 100%.
Every single day. And so I think so often people overcomplicate that. they overcomplicate things, and they put themselves under unrealistic expectations too, and then they get in this spiral of, well, I'm not improving, when actually they really, I don't think most people realize how close they actually are.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then they quit.
Well, I've always when I was managing salespeople, or even when I worked in dentistry and I managed 20 dental practices, the thing I told everyone there that I managed was it was all about small wins each day. Like if we wake up and we see that we need to do this, this, and this, it's going to be debilitating. But I know you can do this consistently all week or all month. And if we do this consistently all next week and next month, those small wins, 12 small wins in a year, that's a big win.
Yeah.
And if we do that every year for the next 3 years, we're going to end up way past here.
Think about how much less stress that is too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, really.
It's like I said, I mean, it's setting the expectation even for yourself. I mean, within your own.
And even Chris talks about a lot, gamifying it, right?
Yeah,
Turning it
gamify it.
into something bite-sized, turn it into a game you can play with yourself or the rest of your team. If it's a game that's broken down granularly and you actually know what you need to do each day to seize each day, it's easier to get to where you need to be.
Yeah, Andy Frisella talks about the power list, and I've actually adopted that in my life. There's 12 things that I got to accomplish every day, from reading the Bible 10 pages a day, reading a regular book 10 pages a day, minimum of 45 minutes, some type of a workout, whether I'm just walking for 45 minutes.
Yeah, just something move
45,
to
yeah.
move.
That's 20 prospecting activities every single day. And prospecting for me is just conversations with
Yeah, talking to people.
I don't wake up in the morning to do real estate. Well,
Yeah.
yet our organization is probably responsible for about 2.5 billion of the 4.6 billion that LPT did last year. If you take the groups that we have in our group, I don't wake up to do any of it. I wake up, literally live my life in such a way, I call it my circle of life. From the time I wake up to the time I go home is my circle of life. And I live my life in such a way that business just
Happens, yeah.
I don't wake up to be the realtor.
Yeah, you
Cold
have
call.
you have to
Follow up. From 9 to 11, I'm cold calling. From 11 to
People
1, I'm
actually
following
followed
up.
me in my life. Dude, I live a pretty damn good life.
Yeah, you have to learn how to attract business
Yeah.
instead of chase business.
I just find some people that are just, I'm looking at the way they're doing things. I'm just like, so
Yeah, it can
I'm
be
so
a
glad.
it can be a grind if you do it the
I
wrong
put my
way.
happiness before everything.
Yeah. Well, it's hard to see the small wins if the one win a week or the one win a day if you're only focused on this one big picture and you set the limitation that I'm never going to get that big picture.
Early on in my life, I saw the way my mom was working, and I saw the way a lot of the people in our family were working. And although they're wonderful people, they were just not happy, man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When they couldn't see how to get the other.
And it's funny that all these people, and my mom, if she was sitting here today, she would agree with me. They all said, when you going to get a real job?
Yeah, yeah.
When are you going to get a real job?
Yeah.
And I just never bought into that old way of thinking that I had to do it their way.
Yeah.
And the thing about it was that I wanted to just be happy,
Yeah.
have fun.
And
What's
have
the
fulfillment.
definition of a real job? A W-2?
Right.
I guess.
It's the belief.
I know, but that's what
Yeah.
I'm saying. I mean, is that
For
the
them,
old,
yes.
Is that the
It
old?
was
way of
joining
a
the
real-
union.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Get a
And nothing
W-2.
against anybody in the union. Hey, if that's
No.
if that's your thing, that's
Yeah.
your thing. But listen, that just never was my thing.
Yeah. So we always like to kind of end on this. It's more of like it's a philosophical question
Yeah.
to a degree. It could be personal, it could be professional, it could be a combination of the two things. We'll leave that to you, but it's one synthesized piece of advice that you would want to leave with people. We call it a legacy question. If today were it, what is that legacy piece of advice you would want to leave to people?
This is not a practice life. You got one. And I don't think that most people realize how powerful they are.
Mm-hmm.
And if you truly identify in Christ the way, I know some people listening might not be a believer like I am, like you guys are. But if you truly can identify that you are God's highest form of creation, I mean, he made us in the image of him. How can you come from any place other than a place of strength?
Yeah.
How can you live a life of scarcity? I can't comprehend that. I don't understand that. The second that I identified with that, I just became a man on fire, man. So I guess what I'm trying to say here is realize that everything that you need, that you're looking for externally, that you're, watching the videos, reading the books, you already got everything you need right here. It's already inside of you. And if you can tap into that, man, and maybe that requires you getting a coach that can help you peel back the layers of the onion to find out what's preventing you from stepping into that power. What's preventing you from getting rid of those self-imposed limitations, those limiting beliefs. That's the only thing that's keeping you from achieving the lifestyle that you want to live and having a life that is just a life of somebody on fire and somebody living with purpose.
Yeah.
So I know that was not just one thing.
No, I mean, I agree. I mean, I think it's...
You're powerful beyond measure.
Yeah, and it's not a practice. No. This is it. We got one life to live.
So why
it sounds cliche, but it's true.
Mosey around. I think about this. Think about all the people that are taking average action every day. Who wakes up saying, "Hey, I want to drive an average car today and hang around average people, and I want to wear average clothes, make average money, eat at average restaurants, and average." Nobody wakes up and says that. Yet, how many people are living average lives?
Yeah, it's settling. It's a complacency and a settling. Yeah,
you have limited time here,
and I do feel called to thrive. Personally, I feel like that is what we're called to do.
I just want to end with one thing, because earlier I said I wanted to plug this. Recently I hired Dave Clare to be a mentor and coach for me.
Yep.
I mean, he's always been.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Mentor and coach, but actually he spent a week at my house and we came up with my personal manifesto and my life's mission and what my values are. And it was a really wonderful process. We're actually almost finished with the fourth step is happening in the next week or so. But I've gotten very clear that real estate's not the end all be all for me. What is my life's mission is I see that there is a real problem with masculinity in the world today. There's a problem with men living far beneath their potential. And I want to help men that were broken like me stand in their power and peel back the layers of that onion.
Yep.
I really want to help 100,000. My goal is to help 100,000 men.
I think you can do it. You have a platform to do it.
I think 100,000 might be undershooting, but it's inspiring and empowering 100,000 men to stand in their power. That's my
awesome
mission. And thanks, Dave, for helping me.
Dave's awesome. We love Dave. Well, I appreciate you coming on, Damien. Pleasure as always. We really love you taking the time, being vulnerable. It's what it's all about. And we appreciate you guys for tuning in. We hope you guys check out our next episode 14. That's it.